Hey guys, it's Dan with Invention Today. How are you? Thanks for being here. Don't forget to subscribe. And we are in the 2020 Ram Laramie. It's a 4x4 and it's got the 5.7 liter Hemi. Now it doesn't have the electronically boosted engine in it. This is your standard Hemi motor. It's 395 horsepower, 410 pound-feet of torque. And we're here today for two reasons. One is I want you to hear what this truck sounds like when I accelerate. And number two is we're gonna do a mile per gallon challenge. Now I'm gonna do the same run that I've done with a number of different vehicles so I can compare this apples to apples to apples. And it's about 8 miles. It's up a pretty big hill. It's about 600 feet high, trying to mimic kind of a highway gas mileage scenario on this run that I'm gonna do. So I'll show you that here in just a couple seconds, but right now I want you to listen to what this engine sounds like. So I'm going to turn down the fan and hopefully you can hear this and pick up from what you hear inside the vehicle when I accelerate. Okay, so give me a second, I'll be right back. Thanks. Okay, so I'm letting those cars go by there. I think we got a Ford, a Ram, and a GMC that just drove past us. Okay, so I'm going to accelerate pretty quick going up this hill. I'm going to shut up so you can hear what it sounds like inside the vehicle. All right, so just like that, we're going about 50 miles per hour. I'm gonna pull back over again, roll down the windows so you can hear this again with the windows down. Okay, now, windows are down. All right, same thing, hit about 55 on that. So the 8-speed transmission is gonna shift at about 55 miles per hour when you've got it floored. So it's going to require 2 shifts to make it to 60, but that is some pretty good pickup there coming out of this Hemi. Tires spun just a little bit. It's a little bit gravelly there on the side of the road, so that was probably contributing to it a little. But the traction control, I can tell you, is dialed in awesomely because there was never any decrease in power on those 2 acceleration runs, and I had the gas pedal floored both times. And it just took off. You got a little bit of chirp out of the tires, but you never had any intervention from the traction control system to cut power. It allowed a little bit of wheel spin so you could maximize the acceleration of the vehicle. So, okay, so that is pretty, that's fun. I love doing those. I thought hopefully you were able to hear a little bit what it sounds like inside the vehicle. Like I say, I think from a previous video that I did on this vehicle, I was comparing between like a Ford F-150 and this Ram 1500, and some of the features I thought were a little bit nicer about the Ford and some features I thought a little bit nicer about the Ram. It just depends on what you like. If you're just completely brand neutral, I think you're gonna have a hard time deciding between these trucks if you're not a big enthusiast of vehicles. If you really have some passions about some desires on what you like and what you don't like if you are, again, brand loyal, then you're gonna have a hard time switching from Ram and going to Ford. If you're not brand loyal and you really put a lot of heavy weight into technology, then you're probably gonna go with the Ram. If you are more into, I guess, the harder working aspect of a truck, and you like things like aluminum door panels and so forth. You like some of the tow features that you get on a Ford versus a Ram, some things like that. Like reverse guidance that you get on the Ford. That's a pretty cool feature that you can't get on the Ram. There may be some preferences on the Ford side. Engine wise, Ford's got the turbocharged smaller engines, the 2.7 and the 3.5, which are, of course, some of their best sellers. The 5 liter from Ford, though, I mean, if you've ever driven a V8 pickup truck, it's really hard to not want to go with that 5.0 from Ford. And the same thing with this Ram. This 5.7 is just a beast of a motor. I mean, I love it. I absolutely love this engine. It hauls, it's got really good low end torque, but it also revs, and it does not run out of steam in the upper red line, because you know, let's face it, these Hemi motors were really designed for high performance sports cars, and they toughen them up a little bit so they could be used in a truck application, and they just do a great job getting the job done. So, all right, we're coming up to our place here where I will start this mile per gallon challenge, and so give me a couple seconds and we'll get it rolling. Okay, for this challenge, right at this spot on the on-ramp, I reset the trip computer. It's been reset. I accelerate at a normal level up to speed, and then I go the speed limit. And so the speed limit on this part of the highway is 65 miles per hour. So I'm accelerating at a normal amount up to 65. So I've got cruise set at 65 miles per hour. Now, we'll just see how we do. So again, I'm not gonna spend a whole lot of time talking during this part of the drive, just to keep the video a little bit shorter, but my exit up here is in about 7 miles, and I've got a really big hill that I go up that's about 600 feet in the air, and then I'm gonna come down that hill. It's kind of low and slow on the way down. Well, I mean slow, I mean we're still driving 65 miles per hour, but it's not as steep. It's not nearly as steep on the other side as it is on this side, and we'll see how we do. So anyway, I'm curious to see how we do with gear shifting and so forth going up that hill, so I'll be back to you here in just a quick second, and we'll watch how this engine and transmission perform going up the steep side. Okay, we're coming up here to the steeper part of the hill, and I've got the instant mile per gallon tuned in here for you so you can kind of see what we're getting. And as we're going up a little bit of this hill, we're about 19, but when we were on the flat back there, we were, you know, getting in the mid 20s, and it's really, really good. So, all right, so here we go. We're coming to the first part of this hill, and we'll see if we get any type of a shift at all. Now, this is probably about a 2.5 or 3% grade, and we experienced a downshift into 7th gear. So we had a downshift into 7th gear there. Now we're back into 8th. So that one got us one little downshift. It was very subtle though. You really couldn't feel anything, and it didn't jar you too much or anything like that. Now, this is the steeper side. This is probably about a 5 or a 6% grade. There's 7th gear, and it looks like we're gonna hold 7th. I'll put my finger there by it. So we're holding 7th gear going up this hill, which is really good. Probably a little bit of a difference between an 8-speed transmission and a 10-speed is if I remember correctly, when I was driving the F-150s, when we hit that part of the hill, we were actually downshifting 2 gears. I know I do that all the time in my Expedition, is it downshifts from 10th into 8th gear. You can actually feel that one a little bit. The subtle change from 8th to 7th in this transmission is just like the shift in the Ford from 10th to 9th. You know, it's really imperceptible. Now in the Ford, you can feel it a little bit when it goes down to 8th. There's definitely a little bit more of a feel going into 7th though. Just the more gears you skip, the more it's going to jar you. Now we're coming down the hill. So let's do a little spot check here and see how we're doing on the miles per gallon. We're at 20.3. And so we know it's going to be much better than that by the time we get down this hill and get to our exit. So when I get down to the exit, I will be back with you and let you know exactly how we did on this run. But I feel like this truck is really an efficient vehicle, especially considering it's got a big old 5.7 liter V8 motor. So give me a second, I'll be right back. Okay, we're on the flat. We're on the flat and getting about 26 miles to the gallon just on the flat ground for this motor. So assuming this computer is accurate, that is a really good number. It's actually higher than the EPA number on this vehicle, which I believe is at 23. So it's a really, really strong number. It really is a testament to how fuel efficient they've made these Hemis over the years, but also that combined with the more sleek body style of this new Ram nose and also the 8-speed transmission and how well that is performing. So anyway, we are coasting down here to our stoplight, and we're gonna have a mile per gallon number, and it is a good one for a pickup truck, especially with the V8 motor. I'm gonna come to a stop here, and I'm gonna show you what it is. Got to keep me safe. Okay, we're stopped. 24.6 miles per gallon. Wow, that is really good. Now, I know this is only, 7.7 miles is it? And, but what I tried to do on this, I specifically chose this part of highway to do this on because it does have some hills. It's not flat the whole way, which it mimics a lot of highways in the United States. It also, mimics at least a portion of maybe the average person's commute to and from work. So that's why I did it. Plus, I can control it. I can find the right times of the day where I can run at 65 miles per hour and not have to do this 5 or 6 times in a row to get a perfect run. That was a perfect run. I didn't have to hit the brake pedal once. It was on cruise control from the moment I turned it on until I got down to the bottom of that off ramp. And so I can keep this test very consistent amongst all the vehicles that I do this test on. So anyway, but 24.6 is a great number for this Ram. I wanted to share that with everybody. I think it's really strong. You got a motor here that sounds great. It's a beast of a V8 motor, and it also is very, very efficient. It's a win-win combo. So, while that Pentastar V6 is going to be a couple miles per gallon more fuel efficient, it's not going to drive as well because there's going to be more gear shifting along the way because of the lower torque. And it's probably not going to last as long because it's a V6 doing, relatively, even comparison here. A V6 is going to do more work than a V8 is going to do. It's going to do it. It's going to be more difficult for it to do that same amount of work, tow the same trailer, haul the same load, pull the same truck around all the time. And so the V8 should last a little bit longer. So you've got a great motor that's fuel efficient, sounds good, it's fast. It's great EPA numbers, and the drivability of it is really well dialed in. So, 10 out of 10 across the board for Ram on how they've done with this motor, the transmission, and how they've designed everything to work together. So really, really impressed so far. So with that, guys, thanks for being here today for this mile per gallon run. Just love that engine. Appreciate you being here. Be sure to subscribe, share with your friends, hit that like button, and we'll see you real soon, okay? Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye. Yeah, look at that resolution. You can almost see the blades of grass in my yard. It's incredible. Look at that. Oh, the neighbor. Can you see my neighbor back there? A little bit. Anyway, had to show that to you. Pretty cool.